Good evening and welcome back to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Eredivisie is what happens when you max out your credit card. Arran and Matt are on their way back into the studio. We just finished rounding up all of the farm animals and getting them back to where they came from. The city code would only allow us to have them here past a certain time, so unfortunately all of the animals have left us. The good news is we're about to talk about the Champions League, and of course the Champions League is now headed into the final four stages after Wednesday and Tuesday's action. And the reason that we bring up the Eredivisie or the Eredivisie is, I believe, actually the correct pronunciation. You all know how I struggle with my Dutch a bit. But a team from that division, Ajax, or Ajax as I like to call them, has advanced into the Final Four, which is a bit of a surprise. They look like a strong team, and they are certainly representing their country well. They have some star players like Frenkie de Jong and Matthijs de Ligt. They really play well as a team, and I think that we're expecting them to do well in the Champions League. So I'd like to welcome back Arran and Matt, and let's talk about some Champions League.
Well, I think that was a nice little segue there about letting things go. And I'd like to say that there was a wonderful quote made today on social media. Man City, so close, yet so VAR. We saw possibly one of the greatest games of all time today. This is this morning, lunchtime, our time, and it was just ridiculous. This is the sublime we're talking about. Guys, where do we even start with this match?
I think you start at the 4-minute mark, which was when the first goal happened, or the 7-minute mark, which was when the second goal happened, or the 10-minute mark, which is when the third goal happened.
This game, I think, Arran, you tweeted something once Liverpool put out like, hey, we're moving on in the Champions League, and you posted something like, oh, I'm sorry, you guys were playing today? If you weren't watching City Tottenham, you missed out. This was a game for a neutral. I mean,
yeah, good point.
You're talking 5 goals in 21 minutes. 5 goals in 21 minutes.
Not just that, two teams with balls to the wall. Like, they were just attacking each other. This is like two boxers just basically standing there taking 10 bells out of each other. They were just knocking each other about. Top that off with the new video assistant referee, which came in the Champions League this year. In what were we up to, 93rd minute, so we're into the 3rd or 4th minute of stoppage time. Looked like Man City was going to sneak it again over Tottenham.
Yeah, we thought Spursy were going to go Spursy.
That's the point.
Aguero was only about 25 yards offside.
It was not that far offside. That was a close call. Very, very, very close. But still, I mean, VAR, right?
Yeah.
You hope they got it right, wherever you land on this.
They did.
To be in that, even on TV, you could feel like the elation of we just moved on. We're finally going to kind of get this monkey off our back. That is the Champions League, and we are Man City, right? Probably the biggest, quite arguably the best European side, right?
$1 billion worth of players. Yeah. Well, no, they're not.
And so this elation of we're going on, and then just the complete avalanche of nope, we're still down, we're still losing on away goals.
That's
and
amazing.
There's 2 minutes left. I mean, it's drama that you can't write.
No. It was pure Hollywood. Like, that stuff doesn't happen in the game, and yet here it was today we were watching. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was halfway through a tweet going, oh, that's so Spursy, and then the VAR popped up and said no goal. I'm like, oh, backspace.
Yeah. Let's talk about the goal that actually won it for Tottenham. 73rd minute, corner kick. Fernando Llorente gets up. Ball ends up in the back of the net. Again, we go to VAR, and I'm still torn on this. I going back and kind of rewatching highlights, getting ready for tonight, I think my mind has been flipped. And I think that's a handball.
Phil, you said that depending on the angle.
When I saw the first angle, I said, that's a handball, no question. Then I saw the second angle, and from the second angle, it's not so much whether he touches the ball with his hand or arm or not. I'm going to kind of compare this to American football.
Yes, okay, good.
With American football and the offensive line, when the offensive linemen are blocking, the rule is that they have to keep their hands within their shoulders. So as long as their hands are within their shoulders, they can't get a holding penalty. If they move their hands outside of their shoulder and grab somebody, then that's when they can get a holding penalty. When I looked at him frozen in the air, his hands were both clearly inside of his shoulders, or inside of the silhouette is the term that they've been using. And to me, because his hands were clearly inside of his silhouette and he was even holding them in, at that point you can't call it a handball.
You're right, Phil. A lot of it does come down to intent. But similarly to American football, what happens with the VAR is, what is the call made on the ground by the referee, right? So the video replays that we watched, and one looked pretty conclusive and the other one looked completely the other way. So basically it worked out that it was inconclusive, which is what happens. It goes back to the original call on the field, and the original call was a goal.
Right.
That's how it went down today. And you know what? That's a bit of a problem with the VAR right there, because the referee should have gone straight away without making a call and saying, I'm going to watch that on TV first before I make a call.
Interesting.
Not that it would have helped him, I don't think.
Either way, I mean, we could talk whether a handball or not. It's not a handball. FIFA has got it marked down as a goal.
Right.
And so it stands, and Tottenham moves on.
Tottenham do move on.
We already know who they're facing. We don't need to wait for a draw.
Yeah, this is right.
So Tottenham are going to meet Ajax in the semifinals of the Champions League. And I don't know about you guys, but I am excited for this matchup.
Yeah.
Ajax is finally coming to the toilet.
I think they're going to clean up too.
So before we get to that, I think we got to talk about Ajax versus Juventus.
Yes, we do, baby. Oh, boy. No one on this show, apart from maybe Phil and maybe you, Matt, is happier about this result. I hate Juventus and I hate Cristiano Ronaldo even more. For them to go out after spending their hundreds of billions of dollars, or whatever it is over there, they're in the Euro, and failing against an Ajax team, which, and I think you mentioned it, Matt, was they're an academy side. In this day and age, for them to do this, that is excellent. This is brilliant for the game of soccer.
Man, okay, let's just, first off, hats off to Ajax. Another giant taken down, an absolutely phenomenal manner.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll just say one thing here real quick is in regards to what Arran said about the academy side. That's exactly why. It's like I was saying about Man City today. They're a collection of pieces. These guys, as great as they are all individually, and certainly they run Pep's system, but they're not guys that came up through an academy together and want to go to war for each other. They're a collection of individual stars. These Ajax guys, they've been through wars together.
Yeah, you may have had a point before Pep came along. I would say every single one of those players is playing better since Pep came along in Man City.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I see where you're coming from, Phil. Ajax has fought some wars together. I mean, taking down Real Madrid.
Yeah.
No easy task.
Yeah.
Taking down Juventus, no easy task. And so I think what stands out for me too is the second leg performances for Ajax.
Yeah.
So when they played Real Madrid, they lost the first leg 2-1.
Everyone counted them out like that was going to script right there, wasn't it?
Then they go to the Santiago Bernabeu, where everyone's saying they're counted out, they're done, they lost the first leg, Real Madrid at home is going to suffocate this, and they run out of there 4-1 winners, 5-3 on aggregate.
That's unheard of. That
And
is
then in
literally unheard of.
Right. And then in the first leg against Juve, again at home, 1-1 draw. They gave up that away goal, which is crucial in these ties.
Absolutely it is.
And so where do they go? They go to Italy and they come out 2-1 winners. They do what they need to do. 3-2 on aggregate.
2-2 against a very defensive Italian side as well. Like, that's remarkable.
Right. And I mean, they got fight in them. And this kind of reminds me, and again, I'm going to go back to, because it just happens naturally. This Ajax team is kind of reminding me of Chelsea from 2012.
Oh, God.
I mean, think about it. Chelsea was an underdog team. That on paper, they shouldn't have won. They shouldn't have beat Bayern. They shouldn't have beat Napoli. They fought from behind.
Just lost your manager.
Right. And Ajax is doing the same here. And so I think Ajax Tottenham is going to be a huge match.
Yeah, I do too. And honestly, depending on which team shows up over those 2 legs, I don't know who's going to be in the final, because there was another game as well played today, which was Liverpool-Porto, and they're going up against Barcelona, who, well, let's just say Messi thrashed Manchester United on Tuesday.
Oh, he did. He was on form.
God, that one goal, his first opening goal, those poor Manchester United defenders have families. So one got nutmegged. There was 2 broken ankles on the field, and he went round the keeper. De Gea, who is the best in the world, didn't look so good, really, that day. And Messi just toyed with that Manchester United defence. It was wonderful to see, personally.
Yeah. Hey, we got a lot of Phil Jones face, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah, didn't we just?
Yeah, so Barca beats United 4-0 on aggregate. Again, Messi just tore them up, and they're going to go on and face a Liverpool team that kind of dismantled Porto, which I don't think any of us are surprised about. And
it's just thrashing.
And I actually have in our notes is, did anyone even really care?
No, I know I didn't.
Porto and Liverpool were playing at the same time as Tottenham and City, so...
I usually always watch Liverpool, but this was one day that I didn't, because that Tottenham City game, it was just so juicy, and it certainly turned out to be. And I'm going to make a big call here, and you guys aren't going to like this at all.
Get fucked, Phil.
I'm going to call the Spurs to win the Champions League, and Heung-min Son is going to win the Ballon d'Or this year.
No, the Spurs are not going to win the Champions League.
Spurs aren't.
I think Ajax goes to the final. I think they're just on a run right now in that competition.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All things considered, Tottenham did not look good today. They're still without...
They still conceded 3 goals.
Harry Kane. They still conceded.
That's 3 goals against Ajax. If you're to do that, Ajax aren't going to let in 4.
Right.
Ajax doesn't have the firepower.
But as you said,
City
Phil,
does.
They're a squad that's cohesive. They're not going to let in 4 goals, mate.
Ajax isn't a pushover team. They've knocked out Real Madrid and Juve now. And then they were, I believe, undefeated against Bayern in the group stages.
Honestly, as long as Barcelona
I think Barcelona's winning it this year, man. So I hate to break it to
you. Unfortunately.
Something about Barcelona and Madrid and Juventus. I can't stand any of those teams.
Barcelona has turned it on at the right moment.
Yeah.
Messi has turned it on at the right moment. I think we're going to see Barca-Ajax in the final, which is going to be very interesting because Ajax midfielder Frankie de Jong has already agreed to a pre-contract with Barcelona and will be joining them as soon as the transfer window opens up.
I hope Ajax wins.
So he'll be playing against his new team, and I think Barca comes out on top. I always love an underdog story, and so rooting wise, who I'm going to cheer for, I want to see Ajax take it, but my heart says Ajax, my brain says Barca.
Yeah, fair enough. I also want to see Ajax go, and you're right, they're on a hell of a run of form right now, Ajax. They're top of the Dutch league, the Eredivisie. They've won their last 4 and 5. PSV Eindhoven, they just actually overhauled PSV as opposed to PSG. They're sitting level on points, but the goal difference there is amazing. So they've played 30 matches. Ajax has won 1 more. They've won 24. Eindhoven, PSV has won 23, and they're sitting on 74 points. But listen to the goal difference. Ajax has scored 78 more goals than they've conceded this year.
Whew.
Wow.
PSV is only, I say only, scored 66 more goals than they've let in. Those two teams.
Parity in that Dutch league, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, we go to Feyenoord underneath that, and they're on 56 points. So, yeah, okay, cool. Ajax has scored 106 goals this year.
Oh,
Wow. That's like 3.5 goals a game.
yeah.
30 games, you said. Yeah, that's 105 would be 3.5 goals a game. So,
That's
they're over
incredible
3.5
scoring,
goals a game. That's like a hockey team. That would be good for a
They're
hockey
rolling
team.
right now, man.
They are.
You know, they got a lot of young guys playing with passion right now, and that's why I think you can't really count them out at this moment.
I mean, there's pitchers in Major League Baseball that allow less than 3.5 runs per 9 innings.
Let me show you. Let me just give you a demonstration of how strong Ajax is in the Eredivisie right now. So I mentioned PSV Eindhoven as being their, equals, but they're not really, because they met back there on, the 31st of March. Ajax went out 3-1 winners over PSV Eindhoven. Now, that would sound quite, impressive by itself. Ajax was playing with 10 men since the 57th minute, and they scored 2 goals after that point. That's a hell of a team right there, man.
I'm telling you guys, man, Ajax Tottenham is going to be a great matchup, and I think Ajax is going to move on.
Phil, I remember a conversation you and I had earlier in the season about how, the Dutch league is probably a second division league in Europe. Ajax is out to prove you wrong, mate.
According to the map that I have here on my wall, they're ranked as about the 10th best league in Europe. They're ranked along with like Belgium and Switzerland and Austria. But yeah, I mean, it really seems like those top 2 teams really, even PSV Eindhoven, they looked good when they were in the Champions League, and certainly there's some talent there. And just to kind of make my rooting interest, I would like to see Liverpool win if I could make my pick, but like I said, I'd like to see anybody but Barca. The real thing that I just think Son playing in such incredible form that I think he could be a guy that could take a team on his back and be a game changer. So it's kind of one of those wild picks where if it happens, I'll look like a genius. If it doesn't, well, it's a wild pick,
All right, well, I got a question for you lads, yeah? This is off the cuff. This isn't on the show sheet. Who is the best player out of the remaining 4 teams? I'm going to give you a heads up with Ajax. You got Tadic, who we spoke about in the previous show. He's on fire at the moment for Ajax.
So, who is the best player out of the 4 teams remaining in the...
Yes.
Well, there's only one answer to this. It's Messi.
Sure. I mean, you laugh at this, but Phil does mention that Son, who has been on an incredible run of form this year.
Right. Yeah, he's been great.
I've got another guy that I'm going to mention too is Virgil van Dijk. He might be...
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much for bringing him up. That's exactly where I was going.
I'll let you take off on that then.
Virgil van Dijk, when he was fronted up against the Chelsea defence last weekend, and reminder, we're recording this on a Wednesday, he did not let anyone get past him at all. Not one person. And there's a stat for that. No one got round him. This guy...
He hasn't been dribbled past in like 13 months, I saw some stat.
No.
It's like since 2018.
Ridiculous.
Last calendar season is the last time somebody dribbled past him.
Not only that, but he can bust down the side there. He can make plays further up the field for those more attacking players, if you will. But he'll also be in the box.
He scored a goal today, too.
Yes, exactly. He'll also be in the box knocking these things in with that ginormous head of his. I reckon this guy is...
The meaty Dutch forehead.
He's an incredible player, and I don't think he gets the accolades of the Messi. You know what? Because we go back to this, Phil. Again, we talk about this a lot because we're oracles of the game. Messi's great because he does have a lot of help. Yes, admittedly, that goal was a spectacular individual piece yesterday. But you know what? He also gets put in some good positions as well by players around him. Virgil van Dijk, he's like, nah, I'm the guy that's serving you. He's amazing, this guy.
Yeah, he's great. I don't think he's the best player left, though. So, I mean, here's the thing. You put Virgil van Dijk on Porto's team. Same teams, right? You just move Virgil van Dijk from Liverpool to Porto. Does Porto beat Liverpool?
Yeah. Well, no, because you wouldn't have a Henderson somewhere floating around in front of him there, for example. So,
you put Messi on United. Does United beat Barca? I would say yes.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, so you have a guy, right? It's tough because Virgil van Dijk's 27, kind of the peak of his career, right? In a couple of years, he's going to start to come down that hill. You got Messi, though, who's 31, but is playing phenomenal. And he's going to make the bigger impact on the team, because he's going to move the ball around. He's going to open up space. He's going to draw defenders away. That opens up space for other players, like Coutinho or whoever it is. Van Dijk's just is a great, great center back. Is he the best defensive player in modern football right now? I would probably say absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're talking impact on the game in the where it counts, points, wins, losses, it's Messi for me. Messi is the best player in the world right now, and he's the best player left in the Champions League.
All right. What about a team with Van Dijk and Messi on it?
Dude, I tell you what, man. I think the hardest thing for Liverpool and Tottenham going into this summer is keeping some of their key pieces, because you have some clubs right now that have a ton of money that are going to be, Real Madrid's going to be looking to rebuild. I read a report that they want to go after De Gea. Zidane wants De Gea, and he's willing to use Courtois as a trade piece to get him. You have like PSG. If we're all honest, PSG cares about one thing, and that's winning Champions League, and they haven't done it yet. They're backed by a nation as well, and so they have money to spend. And so why not target a guy like Son or Virgil van Dijk to make that happen? It could make for a very interesting summer with some of these teams like City, who really, I think at this point, teams like Juve, City, PSG, you could throw Real Madrid in there. They're not really too concerned with winning their domestic league because they want that Champions League trophy, and they're going to throw around some money to make sure it happens. So I think Tottenham's and Liverpool, United could be in a very precarious spot. It's going to be very interesting this summer. Yeah, no worries.
Question to you guys. Is this Tottenham's last tilt at a Champions League cup for a long while?
So I would say yes, just because it's so unexpected. The beginning of the season, if you had said Tottenham and Ajax are going to be in the semifinals of the Champions League, no one would have taken you seriously. And I would say yes.
That would have been a good bet to me.
I would say yes in that regard. And also on the fact that, again, this summer, the way Son's been playing and the way Christian Eriksen's been playing, you get a couple of those major teams coming in and saying, we'll give you 150 million for Son. Tottenham's not going to say no to that. They just built a brand new billion-pound stadium.
They've turned into a selling club. They're not just a not buying club. They're a selling club. They're going to have to offload some of these players they've developed.
I think for sure this is kind of the first and last time they're going to be in the semifinals of the Champions League.
Yes, I think you're right. It's going to be a long time before they get back up there again. They're probably going to have to go through a bit of that Arsenal pain before they do. But all the best this year, Spurs. Don't go too far, William. Hey, lads, I have news across the pitch news desk.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Joey Barton's leopard spots haven't changed at all. For those of you who may not know, Joey Barton was a rather thuggish player for, a bunch of teams. Notably, one was, I think he was playing for Newcastle United. The Newcastle fans are like, we've got Joey Barton, la, 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 la. And the Sunderland fans sang back, you've got Joey Barton, you've got Joey Barton. For those of you who don't know, he is a particularly thuggish old school type player. Like he's one out of the Vinnie Jones rule book. He's gone into coaching and he's now coaching at a city called Fleetwood Town. There was a bit of an incident when they were playing Barnsley last week, and there was apparently an altercation, an alleged, just so there's no lawsuits on this end of the fucking pond, an alleged altercation with the opposition, the Barnsley manager, after full time, and the police escorted him off the premises, and apparently he's under investigation. Now, I bring this up because I'm very happy to see, or for us to write, and it might be a little bit lazy, but it's going to be Fleetwood sack Joe Barton. And I'm waiting for this to happen. It's going to happen. And you'll be first to know and across the pitch.
Speaking of reading, we've been doing quite a bit of writing lately, and we've been putting out some game previews. Matt had a game preview of the Phoenix Rising that's still well worth checking out if you want to learn a little bit more about Austin Bold, or if you don't want to, we understand. Also, a recent article was published by a new contributor to Across the Pitch, Darren Woodhead, who is, of course, the author of the 50 Years of Accrington Stanley book, who we have interviewed on the show a couple of times. He recently contributed a blog post about the Northern National League battle, which is in the sixth tier of English football. Really interesting stuff there. A six-tier team that draws about 4,000 fans a game. Incredible stuff. And thank you, Darren. And we can all look forward to, Darren says he's going to be contributing more articles to us as soon as he finishes up with his book in July.
I can't wait to read the rest of them. That article was incredible. I know pretty much next to nothing about the sixth tier of English football, and now I want to know about it. Like that was a great read. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that.
All right, do you guys have anything else?
I think I'm good tonight, Phil.
Mr. Wizard?
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
We thank you, as always, for joining us, and for my brother from down under,
my mate from State 48,
and Mr. Wizard.
Have a good one, guys.
Have a good night.